Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to take you along as I plan out a week of our homeschool. Let's get started. First of all, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Kaela. I am a second generation homeschool mom to 3 girls. I'm currently homeschooling my 2 older girls, and we have just started our 6th year of homeschooling. Recently, I have been taking you guys along as I got things organized and prepped for the new school year. And I also took you through the process of planning out my homeschool year for 2023 through 2024. If you missed those videos, I'll go ahead and link them in the cards, and I'll also put them in the description box just in case you want to see more planning and organization and prep videos as we jump into this new homeschool year. I'm always available to chat with you guys and answer any questions that you might have, whether it is down here in the comment section or over on my Instagram. And if you're not following us on Instagram yet, I do share a lot more of our day-to-day behind the scenes type stuff, what's going on in our homeschool each week and what's going on in our lives. So if that is of interest to you, definitely follow us over there. For right now, let me turn the camera around so that I can show you guys how I personally have been using my beautiful School Nest homeschool planning notebook to plan out a week of homeschool. Okay, so I have my planner, I have my pens. I do tend to write a lot of things in pencil, so I have some pencils and I have an eraser. And then I have my teacher's guides or main curriculum schedules with me here. I have the study guide for History Quest, and I have a few more schedules and things in my teacher's binder ready to go. So here is my clean slate. And if you are not familiar with this planner, I do have a whole separate video showing you guys all the ins and outs of it, and I will go ahead and put that in the cards and the description box as well. But this is my favorite planner that I've ever used for homeschooling, and I've gone through quite a few of them. This is my favorite. So if you're looking for a good one and you like things that are kind of open-ended and easy to customize without creating your own layouts completely, this is a really great option. I plan out the year in advance, and I did explain this process in my year planning video, but basically I have our schedule for the year plotted out, and then I also have kind of a general overview of the topics that we're going to be covering and any read alouds or literature that we're going to be covering during any given month of our school year. And this is really helpful just to kind of give me a map of our year and a big picture overview. But during the school year, I plan week to week. We do school 5 days out of the week. However, Fridays for us are going to be a little bit lighter and a little bit more of a fun Friday, but we will still get to some math and some language arts on Friday. This page, this weekly overview page, is where I really do my pre-planning, especially for group subjects and group activities. So I'll show you guys how I do that. This page, this weekly goals and notes checklist, and these little schedule boxes here, I don't really use this page for homeschooling at all. I use this for my life, like chores, errands, appointments, and I really like that I have both in one planner. And then on my weekly spread, this is where I'm going to, in pencil, lay out my assignments for any given day and kind of play with the arrangement. So I'll show you guys that. But I really generally keep this page in pencil until we actually do that assignment or that activity, and then I will go in and write it in pen. So in that way, I'm sort of planning from behind. So I plan ahead here, and then I do more planning from behind here, if that makes sense. So let's actually just jump in and get started. So the first thing that I like to do is just mark out my dates and also what week this is. So out of our 6-week term, This will be the last week, 6 out of 6. And then I also just marked that this is week 6 out of our 36-week school year. Then I start sectioning off our page for the different group subjects that we're going to be covering this week. History and geography, science, literature. I also have an area for heart time, which is basically what we're going to be covering in our morning time. And then I'm going to be flipping through my curriculum, looking at the weekly schedules for each and listing out in sort of a checkbox style list all of the various pages that we need to read or activities that we need to do for each subject. Okay, so I have my checklist for our history lessons. This is a fairly light week. I opted not to do the project for this particular unit. It's a recipe, and I generally skip the recipes. We should be able to get through all of our history for the week in 3 days. And we should be able to get through all of our science for the week in 4 days. For science, I have my checklist here. Pretty average week for science. This is kind of a busy week for Spanish. I usually don't have this much stuff for Spanish, but this particular week, there's just quite a few poems. Usually we only have like 1 or 2 poems per week. This week there were like 6, but I narrowed it down to 5 that I would like to get to. There's only 1 storybook, so that kind of makes up for the fact that there's more poetry, because usually there's 2 storybooks. We do have 1 phonics letter that we're going to be working on, which is the letter A or A in Spanish. We have 2 daily songs that we'll have for our heart time every day, and then we'll practice our vocab every day. The rest of this, I'm only going to touch each of these things once, so I'll kind of have to spread that out throughout the week. Now, the one thing that I did not write yet is our literature. This is the first week of September, first full week of September. And for our literature, we are supposed to be doing The Hobbit for the month of September. I was kind of on the fence about what resources I wanted to use for reading / studying The Hobbit. I had a few different things recommended to me. One of them was the unit from Hearth Magic that's available on Etsy. It looks really beautiful. From what I've heard, there's just a lot of attention to detail, a lot of crafts and beautiful art and recipes. But y'all, this unit costs $25 and it's 95 pages. And it's supposed to take 5 weeks, but I really need to fit it into 4. I just could not with that in this season of life. That's a lot of money for a literature study unit, and it's a lot of pages and a lot of content. And I know that The Hobbit is a meaty book that probably warrants that much material, but I just didn't really want to do all of that and spend $25 for 1 book. So I opted to go with a unit study for The Hobbit from Build Your Library. This unit study is much more my style. It looks really simple. It's kind of a checklist style for each day. It's meant to last 5 weeks. I'm hoping I can squeeze it down to 4 weeks. It was only $8, so that is much more my price point for a literature unit study. It includes projects, writing activities, memory work, dictation, a really cool looking map project, and vocabulary words. This will actually be the first time that I'm using anything from Build Your Library. I have definitely been eyeing their products for many years now, and I finally decided that I wanted to try something out. This seemed like the perfect opportunity. So for literature for this particular week, we are going to be starting The Hobbit. It looks like we need to try to read chapters 1 through 5 in this first week. So I'll make a checkbox for that. And then I'm also going to do a checkbox for memory work and dictation and vocab. And then I will just pick and choose. There might be a couple of day lists that we don't get to everything, but these are kind of the general items that I'm hoping to really focus on from this unit. So these are what I'm going to try to get to during this week. Okay, so now that I have my pre-planning, my checklists done over here, I know that on Wednesday I have a doctor's appointment, so I'm going to make a note of that. That might mean that we don't have a lot of time for lessons on Wednesday. That also might mean we don't get to any lessons on Wednesday, and we might have to make up for it on like a Saturday. I'm not sure yet. I'm just putting it there because I know that I do have that appointment. My next step is I'm going to get my weekly spread ready. So I'll do my days of the week and my dates along this top row, and then along this left row, this is where I will put my subjects. Okay, I'm going to try to get this close so that you guys can see. So I have my days of the week going across. I'm actually going to make this into 2 columns for Saturday and Sunday. I'm just going to use a ruler and a pencil. And then just so that I know my weekend is separate from my homeschool week, just kind of separate this a little bit. And for my subject boxes, I have Heart Time, I have E Core and M Core, which are my 2 kiddos that are currently being homeschooled. These are the sections where I will write what they have done in their core individual type work, whether that's math lessons or reading or spelling. That kind of thing will go into these rows. And then down here I have history / geography, science, literature / ELA, English language arts, and then arts and miscellaneous. So this would be anything from an art project, a family movie night, a documentary that we watch, anything like that goes into this row. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my checklists here and try to play around with each of these boxes and split everything as evenly as possible across my week. And when I'm doing that, I'm going to use pencil because things change, things come up. I don't like the pressure of writing out my week in pen. I'd rather go back and write in pen after the fact, after we've already done it and I know it's done. So that's what I'm going to work on next. I took all of our Spanish tasks and I kind of broke it up into an introduction day, a practice day, a day where we can read the story or watch the story being read on YouTube. That's usually what we do. a day for our phonics page, and then we'll do all of our poetry on Friday. And then since we're going to do poetry on Fridays, I'm also going to go ahead and put in nature poetry and try to find some poems that are going along with our science themes. Hopefully this layout will sort of spread out our Spanish tasks. Each day we will listen to the 2 songs, we'll practice a bit of the vocabulary. That will usually take us, all of 10 minutes. And then on Wednesday, we will add the storybook to that. On Thursday, we'll add the phonics. And then Friday, we'll probably not do the songs. Maybe we'll do the vocabulary practice, but we're really going to focus on getting the poetry in because we do have quite a few poems for this week. So that's my Spanish plan. For history, I split it over Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So on the first day, we will read our pages in our history encyclopedia. We'll read chapter 26. We'll do our map. That's probably going to be like an hour to an hour and a half worth of work. So since this is kind of a longer history day, I'm not going to do any science that day. The next day, we'll have our history hop, which is another read aloud chapter and a coloring page. And then we'll go ahead and do science that day. Wednesday, no history. I have the appointment on Wednesday, so I'm going to see how light I can keep Wednesday. Thursday, we will do review and copy work for our history unit. And then Friday, no history. So 3 days for history. Science, Bookshark already has it broken up on this 4-day schedule. So I just slotted it in for Tuesday through Friday, with Friday being the day that we will do our demonstration/experiment and then notebook about it. For our literature study, I'm hoping that we can start with at least 1 chapter on Monday. I do have a heavier history day, so this might be too much reading for me. If it is, I can try to squish in chapters 1 through 3 on Wednesday, but I have an appointment on Wednesday. So it's always, trying to be realistic. What can we actually get done? So I'm hoping we can do just 1 chapter, introduce our memory work, and maybe do some of the vocab on Monday. And hopefully that won't take longer than an hour. My goal for our group subject time, which is usually the second part of our day, is for it to be under 2 hours. So usually our routine is, about 20 minutes to 30 minutes of our heart time, another hour and a half to 2 hours for our core subjects. Then we usually take a break, lunch, play, that kind of thing, come back in the afternoon, do our group subjects. I don't like to spend longer than 2 hours on our group subjects. Ideally, I try to do an hour and a half. That's our sweet spot. So this might be more of a 2-hour afternoon. This is a perfect hour and a half. Now, Wednesday, because I have that doctor's appointment, I'm thinking that we will not do any core subject work. So no language arts or math on that day. Hopefully we can just squeeze in a little bit of science and a little bit of our read aloud after I get back from that appointment. And then Spanish will be in the morning before the appointment. Thursday is going to be a super full day, but it always is, and that's fine. And then Friday will be lighter. We won't have history. We'll only have our demo for science. That's super fun. Poetry time in the morning, and then more of our read aloud literature unit. Overall, I think that this can work. I'm only leery about Wednesday, but we shall see what happens. This is why we write in pencil. Now, for my kiddos' core subjects, I don't typically need to plan a whole lot because most of the things that we use are just open and go, and you literally just do the next lesson or the next page. However, I am going to jot just a couple of things down that are really important for us to keep on track. So first of all, my 4th grader is wrapping up Dimensions 3B. We have really been pushing hard the last few weeks to sort of get through this as quickly as possible. So she's currently in chapter 15, which is the last chapter of this. We are so close to being done. Like I said, we've been pushing pretty hard. We've been doing 2 full lessons a day. However, we only have 1 regular lesson left, and then there's a practice lesson, which I have been skipping these with her. She doesn't generally need the extra practice. And then we have 2 reviews at the end. I know for sure I want to do lesson 5 with her. So on Monday, I'm just going to write lesson 5. I got to be honest, I don't think I'm going to do these reviews with her at all. I think we are going to do lesson 5, call it, and then take Tuesday to do some of her test book. So I have the tests for 3B. We have not done a lot of these tests for 3B. We've really been focusing on getting the textbook lessons done and getting the workbook problems done, specifically the challenging problems. A lot of this has just been really easy for her and she's been flying through it. So we haven't paused to do the tests in a while. Now, one of the things that was recommended by Singapore Math for kids who are like my daughter and having, you know, not a super easy time, but they're not incredibly challenged either, is for them to only do the B tests instead of the A tests. The A tests are generally easier than the B tests. So what I might end up doing, I'm thinking that this is all we're going to do. And then I'm going to just let her move on to 4A because that has really been the goal that we've been pushing for these last couple of weeks. And I really do think she's ready. If I was seeing her have a real struggle with any of the concepts that we've covered in 3B, I would definitely slow things down and make sure she gets the extra practice and review, but I just haven't seen that from her at all. So I think I'm just going to go with this. I'm going to do this year-end assessment B. She can do half of that on Tuesday. And then the second half on Thursday. And then whatever she doesn't finish, if there's anything left over, she can have Friday open for that math. But I really do think she'll be able to finish this across those 2 days. I'm not going to give her any math on Wednesday because, again, we are going to be out of the house for a good chunk of Wednesday. So that actually works out really well. I am pleased with that plan. As far as her language arts go, I really try to give her a variety across the week of what she's working on. And I went ahead and made myself this reference card so that I could kind of keep track of the various resources and skills that we are working through for language arts for 4th grade. I like to lay out her language arts looking at what we already are doing with our family subjects. For example, if I know on Thursday she's going to be doing copy work, I don't necessarily want her to be doing more pen to paper writing work on that day. With math and with copy work, that's a lot of writing already. I don't want to completely exhaust her. So instead, on that day, I can have her do typing. Now, Monday, we don't really have any writing happening for history. We do have a map, which is kind of writing intensive because it does require coloring and labeling the map, but I'm okay giving her, you know, a little bit more. So I think for Monday, I will have her do her vocab notebook. For Tuesday, she has a coloring page. That's not really that intensive for her. She draws or colors pretty much on her own every day anyway. So I'm not concerned about that wearing her out for any other writing schoolwork. So we will do spelling. And when we do spelling, I have her do 2 pages on that particular day because she only gets to it once a week usually. I'm not going to assign her anything for Wednesday, and I'm going to go ahead and keep Friday open just in case we need to catch up with any work from our lit study unit, and also because I know she's going to be doing a notebooking page for science. That could potentially be quite a bit of writing, so I'm going to leave that open for her. Now for my first grader, I made out a very similar card. Right now, she's really focusing on dash into reading. Later in the year, I'm sure we will get to all about reading 2. We haven't added that in yet. So because we are really working with dash right now, I'm going to go ahead and go to our next story that we've been working on. She's been focusing on one book per week. So we are more than halfway through set 2, and this is the activity pack for book 7 of set 2. So each activity pack gives you instructions on what activities are included. They do switch it up, so we're doing slightly different things each week, which I really like. For this particular week, they have a tracing page. They have a little board game. This is a blending path that you can use with these cards. So it gives you the option to do a memory game with these cards or to use them on the blending path. More memory game cards, more memory game cards. We have our paper cutouts that we can make little puppets out of. And then a little play paper scene that we can put our puppets on. And then there's a coloring page with some text. I don't use the tracing pages for tracing. I typically use these for copy work because she has a separate handwriting book from Dash that involves a lot of tracing. So I could technically choose from either this passage or this passage for copy work for her. And then I know for sure, obviously, we'll have one day where we just read the book and do the lesson. That's generally our day 1 for the week. I do not think we will use the blending path. She might like the idea of the memory game. What I've been doing is having her cut out all of these pieces. She really needs the fine motor skill work of using her scissors, and it also saves me some time. I think I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to have her do. So on Monday, we'll do Dash story. On Tuesday, she can do the game, which will be mostly cutting out the pieces. That will take longer than the game itself. Wednesday, I'm not going to give her anything. Thursday, she already has copy work happening with history. So I'm probably going to have her do her Dash copy work on Friday. And then on Thursday, she can do typing like her big sister. She'll definitely want to do it if she sees big sis doing it. On Tuesday, when she is only doing the game, I will also have her do some spelling. And then on Monday, when we're only reading the story, I will also have her do some handwriting. And then for math, hers is really just doing the next page. So I'm not going to jot that down. I'll just write what we get to after the fact. There's one more thing that I want to do to make sure I'm ready for the week. On Friday, I mentioned I want to try to have some nature poetry prepared. I'm going to use this book. This has been on our Heart Time shelf for the last couple of weeks, and we've been enjoying it. I did get it used. It's a little bit of a beat up copy. This is the National Geographic book of nature poetry. In the beginning, it divides up poems kind of by topic. It just has some really beautiful photography combined with some wonderful poetry. And in the index, they have a title index, a poet index, a first line index, and then my favorite, subject index. Since I know that we're going to be learning about caves and erosion, I can actually go back here and search in my subject index and see if there's anything along those lines. I can already tell that there's nothing for erosion. There are a couple options for caves, so I'm going to check those real quick. Okay, this one's really cool. An Arctic cave. I really like that, so I'm going to go ahead and mark that one. And since we have extra Spanish poems, it's totally fine and probably better that we only have one nature poem for the week. And then the very last thing I'm going to do is just mark my pages for the songs and poems that we're going to be covering for Spanish. I like having all of my pages marked in advance. It's a really small thing, but it definitely makes things go smoother and faster for me during the week. All right, y'all, I hope you found this video to be helpful, or at the very least, give you some inspiration and ideas for how you would like to plan out your weeks of homeschool. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye for now.